Technology leadership is just good leadership. I'm Justin Bathen with Castle and the University of Kentucky, and I want to take a couple of minutes to tell you why we think this is true. We have a problem in education, and we all are trying to ignore it. And just like any problem in education, if the leaders don't get it, we're not going to solve it. So what is this problem, you ask? What is it? Well, here at UK, we call it a lot of different things, but sometimes we call it technology leadership. But of course, we're wanting to convince you that technology leadership is just good leadership. So why technology, though? And that's a good question. So you can look at a lot of different things and a lot of different indicators about what the future is going to look like and what we expect from the future, and a lot of those are driven by technology. For instance, if you look at the United States plan, in 10 years, if all goes well, we are going to be a creative-based economy where we research and develop and design and market and we build and manage global supply chains. And the routine work done by people and the manual, machine-oriented routine work done by machines, that's all going to go away. All of that, though, why we're outsourcing and why machines are replacing some of our more manual tasks, all of that is driven by technology. Here at UK, we have a lot of focus on next generation leadership, and we try to talk about what is the next generation of schooling going to look like. And based with our partner, the Council of Chief State School Officers, we've come up with 6 concepts. We think in the future there's going to be a lot of personalized learning involved, facilitated by technology. There's going to be new systems of supports that support educators in the whole educational infrastructure, and a lot of those are going to be built on a new technological base. We think student voice and agency has to dramatically increase. And of course, if you know much about blogging and Twitter and all those things, that's a great place for student voice and agency to rapidly increase relatively easily. We also think, of course, the new system of learning is going to be based on anytime, anywhere learning, meaning the 8 to 3 o'clock school day just isn't necessary anymore, and we can do better. But us doing better is heavily dependent on the technological infrastructure to allow us to extend the school day. We're going to need world-class knowledge and skills, and we're going to need to have world-class conversations in our classrooms. All of those facilitated by tech. And finally, we're going to need performance-based learning in our next generation system of schools. And that performance-based learning is going to be building projects and doing things and building solar panels, and all of this doing that is going to be necessary. And all of that doing is going to involve a lot of technology. So you can see technology is heavily embedded in what we think the future of learning is going to look like here in the United States. And there's, of course, a lot of different traits to that new generation system, but these are a few that we think are important. Basically, like Will Richardson says, and we subscribe to here at UK, if you're comfortable with education today, you are simply not paying attention. Because our current system, we feel heavily, is increasingly irrelevant to children's futures, which obviously is a pretty big problem. We have a global world now, but we run incredibly local schools. We have an amazing digital world, and yet the vast majority of our school day is based on analog technologies. This is just an example of how we think schools operate. So let's take an example. Think about the typical art classroom and how we would teach a kid art. And we would teach a kid about Van Gogh in a book, something like this, and we'd try to teach that kid about the passionate, just creative, inventive, and almost mad painting style of Vincent van Gogh. And we could try and put that in a textbook in paragraph form. Or we could just let the kid walk around the State Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, walk up to one of Van Gogh's paintings, and I mean really walk up to one of Van Gogh's paintings, and see in the brushstrokes the innovative, creative, almost mad brushstrokes of Vincent van Gogh. It's a better way to learn this material. all facilitated by technology, and of course that is dependent on the leaders. We think doing that kind of stuff, we can have much better classrooms, much more engaged kids, and of course the lesson is, for schools, shift, it happens. The 21st century is here, team. It's time we start preparing schools for it. So the question, though, that's relevant to you and relevant to us here at UK is, how do we get there from here? Well, like here in the United States, the person that's caused the most social change had this to say. So tireless efforts of dedicated individuals. You might be one of those individuals, but we're concerned because on you we place a lot of systemic restraints. What are some of those? Well, our system works against some of our potential leaders in various ways because we really don't have insiders be innovators in our education system. And how is that? Well, there are systemic restraints through buildings like this, through books like this, through boards of education that might look like this, and of course we all know now through this has caused a huge systemic restraint on innovation in schools. So democratic innovation we think is possible, but it is dependent on leaders. Why? Well, look at any school organizational chart. What school organizational charts usually look something like this, but notice what's important here. There is this particular element at play. So that element, principals in particular, and school leaders, they get a lot of control in our system. They get to control budgets and personnel and assignments and facilities and time and discipline and curriculum and evaluations and even policy. And you add all that up together, and what do they really get to control? Well, they control change. So if the people in charge of leading our school organizations into the next century are the ones that are least knowledgeable about it, then we've got a pretty big problem. Because if the leaders don't get it, it is not going to happen. Well, this is where we come in. And our programs here that we've built, the next generation leadership programs, the technology leadership programs that we've built here at UK, where we want to prepare these leaders, we want to prepare you to lead us into this next generation of schooling and build the kind of education system we think that will help our kids succeed far into the future. So join us, won't you?